Hello, YouTube. Welcome to another episode of the Y Files. I am your host, Steve, where this is the channel where we talk about the touchy subjects that's got everybody's panties in a twist, or just some things that just make your head explode and you go, why? Why? And today we are talking uninterrupted, unedited, uncensored, and we're going to talk about tip culture. And before you go into my comments calling me a cheapskate or saying blah blah blah, all these people work hard for their money and blah 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 blah, all this, I am not opposed to tipping. I am, however, opposed to expectations of a certain size tip based on how much you spend. So a tip should not be dictated by your total bill, should be dictated by your work performance, how well you take care of me as a customer. Now, granted, I'm not going to lie to you, it's a good basis, you know. I mean, if I got a $50 tip or $50 bill, you know, I'm going to look at it and kind of try to figure out what's a good tip to leave, you know. But the whole move the decimal point over and double it, I try to tip at least 15%. That's standard, I guess. But you know, if you above and beyond, I'm going to give you more. If you're just half-ass, I'm going to probably just give you the bare minimum, and that's it. But I see all these memes out there, these people posting TikTok videos and YouTube shorts or Instagram shorts. If you can't afford at least 20% tip, then don't go out to eat. First of all, nobody cares what you think. We need to breed a culture of just saying we don't care. I know you're on, well, why are you making a video out of it? Because I like to make content. It's what I like to do, and I enjoy it. So that answers that question. But here's the thing. Some people going out to eat is a luxury. Not everyone can afford to go out to eat. It is a special treat you do on a special occasion, and you might be splurging, you know, stretching your budget just to be able to go to Applebee's, you know. So don't tell me what I have to tip you, okay? I don't have to give you squat. That's the problem, is that we don't have to give you anything. Dry throat. It's the third video I filmed. But to say, you have to tip me this much or don't come into my restaurant, I'm sure restaurant owners really love to hear their employees say that. Most of you ain't even employees. Most of you are that culture that's offended on behalf of other people who, you know, if you can afford to go spend, you know, $50, $60 on you and your significant other to go out to eat and drop a 50% tip, that's awesome, man. You know, hey, if you got it and you can afford it, awesome, you know, great. I'm sure the servers appreciate it, and I'm sure they love it, and I got no problem with it. See, I work in the customer service industry too. We don't have a tip jar. People don't typically tip people, you know, who, you know, serve them. They only serve, you're only considered a server or someone who serves you if you like in the restaurant industry or something. But if you are a cashier at Walmart, convenience store, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, some shit like that, people don't think about tipping them. And most of the time we do more for you than a waitress who brings your plate of food and fills your drinks up once in a while. Be honest. I mean, let's be honest. So we don't get tips. I have gotten tips, and I've gotten a monster tip. One guy came in and bought a 12-pack of beer, gave me $100 bill, and told me keep the change. I tried to give it back to him. I said, "Oh, no, 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 that's too much." I said, "That's unnecessary," because I'm that kind of guy, But he goes, "No, no," and he turned around, walked out, and he wasn't going to argue with me. He just left it. And do I appreciate it? Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. The fact that you have that kind of expendable income, that you can make someone's day like that is awesome. And I encourage you, if you're a famous celebrity and you can tip $500, do it. Make that person's day. But the average Joe that goes out to eat, don't dictate what I'm supposed to tip. Your performance dictates what I'm supposed to tip. That is what it's based on, not how much my bill is, because you're not doing any more work to bring me a cheeseburger than you are to bring me a ribeye and some shrimp and lobster. You're not doing any more work, okay? But here's the thing. For those of you who are in the service industry and you are the ones that are squawking about people need to tip more, people need to tip 20% or 25% or 30% or whatever. Here's the deal, okay? When you filled out the application at Applebee's, they told you what your minimum wage is going to be. And servers make less. They don't make minimum wage. They make a server's minimum or server's wage, because, yes, and you say that we count on those tips as income. Don't work on some place where you have to rely on the generosity of others to make a living. That is a poor career choice. If you go into a high-end restaurant, one of those goodie, any place that serves duck on the menu, let's put it that way. Okay, if you go into one of those places, you're probably going to do well on tips because those people are wealthy and they can afford to. But if you take a job at Applebee's, or you take a job, I know I'm picking on Applebee's, or if you take a job at Sizzler, or one of these chain restaurants, Outback Steakhouse, and you take it thinking that you're going to make a good living based on your tips, and you're counting on that, then that's your dumb mistake. Don't take a job where your wages are not guaranteed. I'm sure it states in your application. When they interviewed you, you could make up. You notice the job, the advertisements for these jobs. You could make up to $50 an hour. Well, yeah, you could on a packed Saturday night, and you make great tips. Or you could be scheduled to work a Monday afternoon from 2 to 8 and not make squat in tips. That's the dice. You roll the dice, and that's the chance you take when you take those jobs. But let's do a little math here. Just bear with me and humor me for the sake of argument. Say you get your job at Applebee's. I'm using Applebee's because everybody knows what Applebee's is. But say you take your job at Applebee's and they pay you $5 an hour base pay. That's your guaranteed wage. $5 an hour, okay? Say you wait. I'm going to try to do this in a bare minimum. Say you wait on 5 tables an hour. I'm sure some of you wait on more, some of you wait on less. I'm just using it as a base. Say you wait on 5 tables in an hour, and on average, each table tips $5. Somebody may tip you 3, somebody may tip you 8, somebody may tip you 10, but let's average it to $5. Say each table tips you $5. So you are making $25 an hour for those tables with your tips, plus your $5 an hour base pay, you're making $30 an hour. That's more than I make. I don't get tips. So now I understand some of you are going to say some days are slower than that and we don't get that much money. Again, you filled out an application. You understood that tips were not guaranteed when you took the job. So if that is not acceptable to you, find a higher end restaurant or get into something with a guaranteed wage. But don't expect somebody to supplement your poor career choice. That's what I'm saying. Okay? So I tip every time I go to a waitress or every time I go to a restaurant, I tip. And it is, if I have a phenomenal server who is friendly, outgoing, personable, that is the most important thing for me. Friendly, outgoing, personable, likable. You got to be a likable person. If I like you, I'm going to tip you more. And then the secondary things are, because let's say, all you're really doing once you bring the food out is refilling drinks. You know, if I'm not going to be too mad, I usually don't get a drink refill unless I'm just really thirsty. One drink is enough to get me through the meal because I eat like somebody's going to steal it. So I'm done, and then I got my drink afterwards. But typically that's all you do. Once you bring the food out, your job is done. You swing by, make an appearance, ask, hey, do you need some more to drink? And your job is done. It's not physical labor. Now, that being said, the mental side of it. Oh, if you've never seen the movie Waiting, and the Karen, you can tell I love Karens, but that Karen that came in and her steak and she had that shit-eating, that look on her face like someone farted in her face and she smelled it. I went, this steak is not medium rare. How hard is your job? I get it. You got to deal with those people. I have to deal with those people. It's part of the job. I don't get tips for having to deal with them. And I promise you, I deal with more of them than you do. You might get the random one or two a shift. I see 300 people in a shift, and I get 10 to 20 of them miserable. Yeah, that is another thing that rubs me wrong way, is just people who are just general assholes to servers. And I know you're telling people not to tip. No, I'm not telling people not to tip. I'm telling people who get tips for a living not to expect it and not try to make people feel like dirt if they don't tip what you feel is enough. Okay? That is what I'm saying. So don't get it twisted. So, but I know you have to deal with those people. And if you are one of those people, screw you. Treat people with respect. Treating people with respect doesn't mean over tipping. It doesn't mean that. I'm sorry. But as I said, if you're friendly and outgoing, now if you're a snobby little asshole of a waitress or wait person, excuse me, because it's a lot of men that do it. But if you're a wait person and you got this don't give a shit attitude and you're not friendly and not personable, I'm still going to tip, but it's not going to be very much. I'm sorry. It's just not, because you're a shit waiter or you're a shit server. Sorry. If you're a shit server and you expect someone to give you a 25-30% tip, get better at your job. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, and buffets, that is another one. That is a touchy one for me, because I like to tip servers, but at a buffet, I'm kind of, first of all, I don't carry cash. I don't. I have a debit card, so I very rarely have any cash on me. So basically, at a buffet, if I have a couple bucks in cash, I may throw it down there. But generally speaking, do you tip at a buffet? I would say possibly, but not as much, because if the buffets would put a fountain area out there where you get your own drinks, they wouldn't need servers at all. Just bus people to clean the tables afterwards. But if I could go get my drink, I don't need you. I go get my own food. I take care of my own. I get my own drink, and I don't need you. So to expect a 15% gratuity just to check my water or my drink, I just don't feel it. I don't feel a self-serve. If it's a self-serve restaurant, why would you tip somebody? But like I said, I typically try to, if I have cash, I try to make it a point to. Sonic is another one. You know, the car hops at Sonic. I would love to tip them, but I don't carry cash. There's no option when you pay with a card to tip. There may be now. I don't eat fast food very often, very rarely. So it's been a long time since I've been to Sonic. They may have one of them pads. Those things irritate me. Quick question for you. Not quick question. It's going to ask if you want to leave a tip or not. It's an annoyance because it sets it right, at 25%, the suggested tip right off the bat. And I'm like, no, back up. And I have no problem with putting in what I feel like putting in. So, but the tip culture is getting out of hand. Here's the problem. Here's one of the problems that people who are offended on behalf of other people don't seem to realize is that you're pissing people off with your videos. You are hurting the people in the service industry, because when people get pissed off because somebody is trying to tell them what to do, they will actively not do it just out of spite. That is human nature, and that is what the majority of people are doing. If you can't afford to tip at least 20%, then don't go out to eat. So now people are going, I'm just not going to tip at all. That's what you expect. And they're taking it out on the servers who may or may not be complaining and bitching about their jobs and their tips. So you are doing a disservice to people who are restaurant servers. So stop it. Stop it. You just don't understand. Like I said, people will throw their hands up and stop tipping just out of spite because of you. Keep that in mind. So, what's the bottom line? The bottom line is tip your servers. Tip them what you feel is a reasonable amount for the job that they did. And no more. Don't feel bad about it. If you don't think people are tipping you enough where you work, find another career choice that doesn't rely on the generosity of other people, because some people are more generous than others. Said what I said. But that is going to do it for this video. Before you go, love it if you do all those YouTube things we love for you to do. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. But we will see you in the next episode. Peace.